lecturers of English and cultures of English-speaking countries, VNU University of Language and International Studies. Her interests are second language acquisition, pragmatics, discourse studies, teaching and assessment. Mr. Trịnh Thanh Bình, BA in English Language Teacher Education Honors Program, VNU University of Languages and International Studies, currently teaching online and offline classes in Hanh Pham. Please welcome Dr. Phạm Thị Hạnh.
Thank you very much, Halle. Thank you for having us here. So I'm going to be the first one to talk about this project that we have finished until now. The title is Representations of Vietnamese Ethnic Minorities in New High School English Textbooks. So Bình, can you move to the next slide? Okay, so I'm going to talk about the background of this project. The research show that, okay, so I'm going to talk about the reasons why we did this study together. In Vietnam, it is known that there are 54 ethnic minorities, and according to the documents by MOET, Ministry of Education and Training in 2018, there are 59 provinces and 3 state boarding high schools for ethnic minorities, as you can see. According to research universally, then problems with ethnic minority have been identified as English in English textbooks. For example, in Basani in 2015, the problem was found as underrepresentation of ethnic minority, while Chu in 2015 and Leo 2007 found that stereotypes happened there. However, in Yamada 2006, then it seems that the representation of ethnic minority was not found, and it was excluded from the daily context, according to the same author in 2010. The only Vietnamese author was that we found in 2014, that is Ding, who found that Vietnamese culture is depicted as the culture of king group only. So it seems that students, so because of the underrepresentation and other problems, as we have seen from the research, show that students seem to lose their interest in the subject they study, according to Cunningsworth in 1995. So from the problems above that we found in the research and also the documents from MOET, then we decided to study the representation of ethnic minorities in textbook in high school in Vietnam. They include textbook for 3 grades, that is grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. Each consisting of 2 volumes, and each volume is accompanied by a teacher's book. Our project aimed to analyze the presentation of ethnic minorities in new high school English textbooks, and the objectives are to answer the following sub-questions. Question number 1, how are Vietnamese ethnic minorities represented in the textbook? They're broken down into 3 or 4 smaller questions. What is the number of activities presenting the ethnic minorities? Who are the minorities represented in the textbooks? How are the minorities represented in terms of topics and content? And how are the minorities represented culturally? And the second big question is there any opportunity for students to learn about ethnic culture through the analyzed activities. Okay, so now welcome Bing to continue with the literature review, please.
Thank you, Ms. Hanh. So I will continue with the literature review of our study. First, I'd like to make it clear about some of the key concepts of our research. Okay, so I'll show these first and then I'll explain them later. So first, we choose the definition of representation from a semiotic approach. According to Saussure, it is representation is a form that signifies an idea. We adopted this definition because we believe that in the textbook there are pictures and text that convey the ideas to the students. So that's why we feel this definition is relevant to our study. The second concept in our research is ethnicity. According to Bell, an ethnicity is a group sharing a sense of place, ancestry, a common history, and other multiple elements, as you can see here. And in countries where there is an ethnic majority, the term ethnic and ethnic groups is usually used to refer to ethnic minorities or marked ethnicity according to Munian events. On the other hand, the people of the majority only use this term when it comes to filling the information, related personal information in official documents. And finally, regarding culture, there are multiple definitions, but we decided to adopt it from the intercultural communication perspective, which is a group people's ways of life according to Bowen et al. And sometimes the culture can be the marker of ethnicity according to Herbst. So comes to the previous finding on representations of ethnic groups in textbook. We have identified some findings in English and other subjects, mainly social sciences. So according to Chu in 2018, the values and beliefs of major Han people is used to represent the Chinese culture. And in Chinese social science textbook, and in Canada, the history of China is taught from a tourist point of view, which fail to convey the full, to portray the full picture of the situation in China. In English textbook, we have identified that the problem is more prevalent. In Japan, some Japanese ethnic groups are absent from the national English textbook, according to the study by Yamada in 2006. And 4 years later, the same author discovered that the ethnic characters do not have actual interaction with other characters. They only appear in historical accounts and some fairy tale of in the textbook. And according to Bassani, 2015, in British Columbia, Canada, some groups were over or underrepresented in the primary textbook there. So the next part of the presentation is the methodology. First, regarding the data collection, we collected all the activities from the students' book, and we combine them with the teachers' instruction and notes. These activities, including tasks in skills lessons, in lessons of the 4 skills, and the exercises when students learn linguistic lessons. The 4 skills include reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and the linguistic lessons include the lessons on pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. And this categorization is done by researchers. So for the data collection, we first collected all the activities with direct reference to ethnic minorities. These are the activities that the mention of the ethnic minorities can be recognized directly in the books, in the activities. And we also look for the activities with indirect reference. In these activities, there are some images without any reference to the ethnic groups. So we have to use the Google image engine to look for the original images to see whether they represent the ethnic minorities or not. From these activities in the student's book, we combine them with teachers' guidelines, notes, and instructions to the in the teacher's book, and so these would form like a unit of analysis in our study. So in terms of the data analysis, we have adapted the procedures and frameworks from multiple sources. So first, the underlying procedures is adapted from those suggested by Wenning and Gist, in which the prompts, the text and images is treated as a unit. And we also add the guidelines from the teacher's book to these procedures. So that is about the procedures. Here, next is the approaches that we use to analyze our data. So first, it is the qualitative approach, which we use to categorize the activities into different aspects based on the following frameworks. So each framework is used to develop the sub-questions. As you can see here, for the first sub-questions, we adapted the framework the question suggested by Canningsworth. That is, are ethnic minorities represented with reference to their origin? For the sub-question 1C, we analyzed them based on the problems on topics and content. We continue to the sub-question 1D, that is, how are the ethnic minorities represented culturally? In this research question, we have used multiple frameworks from Ding, from those suggested by Ding in 2014. It is the framework about cultural analysis, and Painter et al. Painter's framework is used to analyze the images and some other questions proposed by Canningsworth. In the second big research question, we also answer it by the qualitative approach. So in this question, we aim to find out, is there any opportunity for students to learn about ethnic culture? And these are developed based on these two questions, these two Canningsworth questions, as you can see here. So another approach that we use is the quantitative approach. First, it is to answer the sub-question 1A, how many activities are there featuring Vietnamese people and culture? And we also use this approach to compare the quantifiable qualitative result. This is a procedure suggested by Bowen et al. And the coding scheme in this part was constructed during the process, and we will present it in the next section. So now I'll move to our findings. So regarding the first questions, this is the number of activities in which the ethnic minorities of Vietnam appear. As you can see here, the total percentage is 7% with 21 activity. This percentage is compared to the total representations of Vietnamese people and culture, not the overall, not the total number of activities in the textbook. So as you can see here, there were 7 in total. There are 7% of the activities which feature Vietnamese ethnic minorities. In separate volumes of textbook, we have found that the highest percentage is in grade 12 textbook, whereas grade 10 textbook has the lowest percentage, which is only 3%. So regarding the minorities appear in our textbook, in the textbook, there was 9 activities out of 21 represented the specific minorities. Other 12 activities just mentioned the ethnic groups as in general. They use the words like ethnic groups or ethnic culture, ethnic festivals. Here is the 9 minorities represented with the number of appearances. You can see it in the middle column. So these 5 groups, Hmong, Dao, Nung, Khmer, they make only 1 appearance across the 3 volumes. And Dao, Nung, and Khmer ethnic minorities are not directly referred to. The most frequently featured in the textbook is the Cham minorities with 5 appearances. In these 5 appearances, there are 4 images of Mission Sanctuary and only one activity actually depict the Cham people. So coming to the sub-question 1C, how are the minorities represented in terms of topics and content? To answer these sub-questions, we analyzed the topic of the lesson, and we found that the topics mainly focus on culture and tourism. There are 7 activities that is related to culture, and 14 that is related to tourism. The content of these activities include the textual and visual information related to the topics, and they mainly aim at informing students. They aim at conveying knowledge and information to the students. So the majority of the activities aim was informing. These are the activities with factual information like what festivals or how are they celebrated. There are 7 activities that aim at triggering curiosity. In these activities, students are required to make some research about a certain problem, and they have to make a presentation. Usually they're required to make a representation. And there was one activity that does not have any content. It only have a prompt to students. So here is an example of one activity that we chose. This example is extracted from Unit 2 from the Task 2 in Unit 10 of Grade 10 textbook. So we have identified the mention of ethnic culture in these two parts, and there's also additional notes for students. This part is extracted from the teacher's book. As you can see here, first, students are asked to talk about ecotourism destination. They have to express their idea, and traditional life of Black Hmong people and the Gong Culture Festival is mentioned as part of the input for students. So moving to question 1D, how are the minorities represented culturally? First, we analyze the types of culture represented. So according to Ding, culture can be divided into two main types. First, big culture is the cultural products, and there was 13 representation of this type of culture. And the second type is small culture, which focus on the beliefs, values, and the community. And we have identified 7 representations of small culture. The most frequent type of cultures feature is the festival, is festival of ethnic minorities with 7 appearance. So culturally, the ethnic characters are mainly depicted to be the members of their community with equal position, and they are usually depicted to take part in the festivals of their communities. To answer this question, we also look at the language of feeling that is used, and there are 4 activities that employ the language of feeling. in these 4 activities, three convey the positive feeling, and one conveys the negative feeling. In this activity with negative feeling, ethnic culture is described to be strange to students. So this is 2 examples of some activities. Okay. There are sorry, there was some message in the chat box. I will answer the question later. So this is the example of 2 examples of the activities with the ethnic festivals. Sorry. So in these activities, only this one is the boat racing festival of King people in Lý Sơn Island, and these are the other photos. They are all the festivals of Vietnamese ethnic minorities. So for the discussion of this part, first we realized that the Vietnamese ethnic minorities are portrayed limitedly with only 7% of the total. And this is inaccurate compared to the actual ethnic makeup of Vietnam, which is 50.6%, according to the report by Open Development Vietnam. And there was only 9 out of 53 minorities represented, which means that other 44 groups are absent from the textbook. And this is similar to the findings by Yamada. The topic and content are limited to culture and tourism. So this can be concluded as the treatment of ethnic culture as somehow as the tourist attraction. And this argument is proposed by Bing and Wood. The cultural representations focus on the big cultural level. So the cultural values are not focused on. And so from this point, it can be concluded that the portrayal is somehow different from the ethnic students' local life, and this can lead to the reduction in ethnic students' interest in the English subject, and this is the point suggested by Cunningsworth. So moving to the second research question about the opportunity for students to learn about ethnic culture. This is adopted from the study by Werninger and Kist. So first, we looked at the focusation and connotation. So according to the authors, denotation is the activity that focuses on students to provide the correct answer, and connotation means the focus on students' feelings and opinion. So regarding the analyzed activity only, we realized that the majority of the activities focus on the denotation aspect, although the number is fairly equal. As you can see here, is 12 to 9. And after this step, we also look at the specific relationship between text, prompts, and images and guidelines for the teacher. And this, according to Werning and Kist, this part of the analysis is highly contextual. So we realized that the activities can be divided into three levels. First, there are 9 activities which has virtually no potential for cultural learning, based on the what is shown in the teacher's book only. And there are 2 activities with limited potentials. These are the activities that can be that in which learning can happen if the teacher make suitable adaptations. And there are 10 activities with full potential.
Excuse me, Bing, you have 5 more minutes only.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So this is an example of the activities analyzed in this part. As you can see here, in these activities, students are asked to to decide on the heritage site to visit. So they have to share their opinion. There are some suggestions, and we can see the Mason Sanctuary of Cham people here. Additional information about this cultural site is provided to the teacher so that the teacher can use them as an input for students. So in this part, the ideas of students is encouraged, so it can be considered a connotational activities, and students can expand their knowledge with the help of teachers. On the other hand, this is an example of a denotational activities. So as you can see here, in this exercise, students are asked to mark the intonation pattern of this conversation. In this conversation, although Mason Sanctuary do appear and there are two pictures of it, these cultural elements are not used to, students are not, do not have the opportunity to learn about these, cultural artifact. The content of the exercise. So to conclude about this question, we can see that the focus on the linguistic aspects and skills are rather balanced regarding these activities only, and students can learn about other groups' cultures, but the knowledge may be limited to just culture and tourism. Further learning can happen if the teacher make relevant adaptations to the material. So finally, I would like to conclude the findings of our study. So first, Vietnamese ethnic minorities are represented with limited frequency compared to the overall Vietnamese culture and people, and the topics are limited to culture and tourism. Next, the large number of ethnic groups are absent from the textbook, and the cultural products are the main focus of cultural representations. Finally, the activities have the opportunity for learning of ethnic culture, but the content can be expanded with teachers' adaptation. So we would like to suggest some ways to address this problem. So first, there can be more detailed evaluative criteria on the representations of ethnic groups, and the author may increase the number of representations, the number of ethnic minorities, the range of topic, and the representations of small culture. That is the focus on the values, and teachers can make relevant in-class adaptation. We also want to show some limitation of our study. So first, the scope is limited to the 3 volumes of high school English textbook. And in fact, there are many other sets of textbook exist that are used in the education system of Vietnam. And we can focus on we can expand them to the social sciences subject. And only, and ethnic groups is the only minor group covered in our study. According to Cunningsworth, there are other minor groups that also experience problems, such as women, the elderly, and the disabled. And finally, at the time of conduct of the research, it is conducted from a pre-service point of view. So future studies can take students and in-service teachers' opinion into consideration. So that is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. And I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Happy Hack and Mr. Trịnh Thanh Bình for a very, very interesting presentation. Due to the limited time, we cannot include all of the questions in the Q&A session, so you can email the presenters directly. On behalf of VIC 2021, we wish you all the best with the productive day and meaningful rest of our virtual convention. Thank you and goodbye.